Hey everybody, I'd like to call to order the town board meeting for November 1st, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. As always, we're up on Zoom for anybody who wants to join us remotely, streaming to Facebook and YouTube and to our website. The instructions to join virtually are always at the top of our agenda. Next up, I will ask Albert Henry to lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, we have open podium at the top of each of our meetings. Opportunity for residents to speak to us for three or 4 minutes, ask some questions, anything like that. So it looks like we've got Paul Gray. Bill, sorry.
Manlius.
Join us.
I naively thought we were still in the public hearing portions having to do with PUD, but since we're not, I thought I'd provide you a couple of comments on one you're going to be looking at tonight, which is the Twin Ponds, and basically about how I think you might want to handle PUD considerations. You've just adopted a comprehensive plan, and in my mind, you would have gone on to do a number of studies to back up that plan and know how you were going to implement it. Things like pedestrian bicycle plans and a number of other things which are in a letter which you probably have in front of you, but probably haven't had a chance to read. But going on, I thought that the supervisors indicated to you that the developer can't produce a comprehensive, detailed plan until you produce a preliminary approval of a sketch plan. I would tell you my experience is kind of just the opposite. You have one chance to negotiate because once you approve a PUD, the builder has the right to go ahead with the plan as you've approved it. So if you approve a sketch plan, that's the word plan that they can work from. And you've lost your negotiating power to work on what will go into a PUD. PUDs, as you know, are they're a very powerful tool because of their flexibility. And like most powerful tools, they can hurt you if they're not used correctly. So just of the letter that I wrote you, I'd like to just point out one or two things. One, in the second paragraph, I made the statement that you should not approve a PUD until you have a detailed plan that not only tells you what the developer will build, but details what items will advance the comprehensive plan. You should be able to outline the unique features and benefits of the proposed project, which warrant bypassing the zoning that you have in place and that are part of the approval. In what I guess is the fourth paragraph, there were a couple of things. Well, there are a number of things that, as an engineer, I would have expected to see in the plan that aren't there and may never be there if you approve it as a sketch plan. But perhaps the more important things are that as part of this plan, there's a signalized intersection that will be the driveway for this. That signalized intersection should have a number of improvements. For instance, a right-hand turn lane. There should be pedestrian lights and cross markings that should be incorporated in that work. And in my world, that would have been part of the plan that the planning board would have negotiated, and that would have eventually been sent on to the board, the town board, for approval. And so there are a number of things listed for that intersection. And then finally, I thought if you stand back and look at an aerial, look at not only this site, but what's around it, I would have expected to see a pedestrian bridge like the ones that are out back here, crossing Limestone Creek to connect a fairly dense bit of development and people who will be living there, and connect them to the path that runs from the Villages Park out to the state's recreational pedestrian facility, pedestrian bicycle path along the Erie Canal. Those are just the kinds of things I would have expected to see, and why I would suggest that you might want to wait and not approve it tonight, so that the town board or the planning board can negotiate the kinds of things that you should have in that plan before you approve it. That's my opinion. If you get through that, whatever you do tonight, most of this kind of an approach is my idea of how you should be handling PUDs that are coming at you. And I think we all, if you accept a sketch plan, a plan as sketchy as the one in front of you, I think you'll have your agendas full of PUD proposals from here until 5 years from now. And so setting the tone and the kinds of things you expect now is important for how you will handle them, but how developers will approach you with them. So, and I'd be glad to talk to anybody individually at a later date, and I will see that Allison knows how to contact me if any of you should care to talk.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Gray. Thank you very much for taking the time that you did on both of these letters. Have you ever served on a planning board?
Are you a speed reader?
Yeah, I was reading as you were talking. I am a fast reader, but have you ever served on a planning board before?
I was the city engineer and then director of public works in the city of Ithaca for 27 years.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's why I'm
I know,
asking. It
I have
sounds like
not
you,
served on
I didn't know, I'm saying, I hope you have an interest in serving
Oh.
and consider
Well-
applying to our planning board.
How I was thinking even.
Yeah, we could use your expertise.
I had almost enough distance from my career of night meetings to think about that.
Okay, good.
But it will take me a minute or two to think about getting back into the business of night meetings, which I guess I mean now anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah and I met, this was so much long ago now, I can't quite remember exactly what the nature of the conversation was, but I don't think you were there. I think you read something else. But Sarah and I met with Onondaga County Planning, and we, several months ago now, about the PUD, just as we were just starting discussions about it. And we discussed all the different things that we could do adjacent to the PUD, including a bridge across Limestone Creek. So I think that that's spot on, and it's a part of like a larger plan surrounding it. And they suggested different opportunities for state or federal funding that could help us with Limestone Creek in general, which now Councilor Nicholson is working on with the watershed stewards. So there's a lot of work to be done in seeing the PUD through that isn't necessarily limiting those things. So just because it's not in there, or we haven't talked about it, doesn't mean that those things couldn't continue to come. Like, this is step one, and then we can really grow from here and do all these really cool, creative, fun, environmentally sustainable economic development things.
I think I heard Mr. Gray's point too, though, that we have to be working in the best of circumstances and expecting the in good faith partnership of the developers and holding them to account for every possible thing. Yeah, and the timing of that is critical. So I think I heard you were saying perhaps we couldn't expect all of these good things for sure if they weren't detailed early enough. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else show a hands to speak over the podium? And then if there's anybody joining us via Zoom, just use the raise hand function.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Ball. I'm a swimmer and a triathlete. My wife is also a swimmer. My kids swim club. Plan on swimming at the FM school district. So with the recent closing of Casanova College, we've really lost a resource that this community has been missing for a long time. And now the situation's gotten a lot worse. I started a community on Facebook that has quickly grown in the past month to about 500 community members. And we're approaching both the town of Manlius and the FM school board. And I'm here today to raise the issue to you all because I would also see the value outside of just the scholastic uses of the pool to benefit the whole community. So I would want to just let you guys know that we're here, we have t-shirts, we're gaining support from more members of the community, and we're looking forward to bringing this forward and discussing this with you further.
So I have had some preliminary conversations with them about it. And I think this is something that I think FM specifically, they've had about a few times, but hasn't come through. So we discussed the possibility of working together with FM and ideally with ESM as well, to try and do a intermunicipal type of development where we would be all able to kind of share the burden. And I think one of the first things that we would be looking at doing is putting a group together to do a study on what does a pool like we would be proposing cost to build and operate for 30 years. And I think that was something that, and everybody I've talked to, yeah, we want a pool. When we talk about cost, that's really where it gets hard. And then the general idea would be, once we have that analysis, this board could look to put it on, like, for example, next November's ballot, where we would get, it was a presidential year, we'd have 75% of the town weighing in on something like this. And I think that's exactly where we want that decision to be.
Tim just mentioned that the town of Pompey was also very interested in spring pool, so between all of these municipalities and the general geographic location.
Right. That's
It sounds
awesome.
like it's a different kind of conversation than it has been in the past rounds.
Absolutely. Yeah, also the communities of Chinango and Casanova also swim with FM, so it's even
So
larger.
if you'd be willing, if you could email us, townboard@townmanager, what?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, we got your information, so we'll reach out when we start setting up those conversations.
Awesome, thank you very
And
much.
you're on the Sustainable Manlius Committee, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Anyone else there for open voting? Okay. So, moving on, we have Twin Ponds, the planned unit development at 5440 Burdick Street. So we have in front of us the district plan itself. We have the resolution declaring a negative secret declaration that we saw last meeting. And we also have the resolution to do the zone change as well. So if you'd like to just kind of bring us up to speed and jump off from there.
Sure. So there are essentially 5 components in front of you. Before the board can act, you'll need to finish your seeker obligations. By way of review, the board was presented a part 1 of the EAF early in the application process. You've completed the public hearing you're required to complete. County has been, the referral to county planning and to the town planning board has been complete. You've gotten comments from both of those. Comments from the town planning board have been incorporated into the district plan. Those changes have been made. In terms of documents that you would use at this point, after you've already gone through part 2 of the EAF in a past meeting in September, you now have a resolution in front of you to issue a negative declaration on seeker. And that document is the one that looks like this. It's a neg deck resolution under seeker. If the board should choose to adopt the neg deck resolution, then the next step you could entertain would be the adoption of a district plan. The adoption of the district plan, and the district plan looks like this. and the district plan map is attached. The district plan is essentially sets out zoning requirements and all the things, the comments of the previous speaker are very much appreciated in terms of the, the town getting legislative assurance of their priorities and the things as part of the PUD process you want to do. And so the comments are well taken, and I, applaud the board's efforts over the last several months in securing those, a variety of different things for the community, which I won't list again here. But that's all reflected in the district plan. I would point out, there were some comments between the last board meeting and this meeting from board members to make slight modifications to the district plan, which your council has implemented. And in the event that the board wants to continue to adopt the district plan, there's a local law that looks like this. The local law essentially amends your zoning. The district plan would then become an appendix to the zoning, along with that district plan map. And that would be the end of the exercise. I'm open for any questions if anybody has any substantive or procedural questions.
Does anybody have any questions off the bat?
Sarah, no, I don't know if everyone had seen it, the modifications at number 4 of the district plan that was basically the last sentence that explains that there needs to be an enforceable permanent easement agreement that is going to provide the access to the adjacent property, and that no permits would be issued under the district plan until it's provided. And that was Councilor Ballinger had requested that. And then just also in the section that talked about the uses, when we went through the neighborhood shopping uses, we figured out that all of those uses were the same ones that we had sort of redundantly put in. So we put in section C, number 1C, commercial businesses which are permitted in the neighborhood shopping district. So that was a change that was made.
I have a question for the application timeline, like they have specific days that they have to get a site plan approval within 180 days. And then construction within 18 within 18 months. What happens if they don't meet those?
They would have to come back to the board and say, we need a modification to the district plan that gives us more time.
So it'll come back to the town board.
Right.
And I can add some information. My client is already working full-time on the site plan for submission to the planning board, assuming that the board approves of this process. So the site plan application, I would expect to happen in the very near future. And I don't expect that deadline to be a problem for that piece of it.
I think the hesitation is in the several previous applications for this site that fell apart for one reason or another, that it seems to be a more challenging site than when it doesn't always appear that way, but some reason it seems very challenging. So I think the idea that if it falls apart, it does have to come back is just a reassurance for all of us.
So do we need to go through the secret process again, or is it just?
So we actually have not, the resolution that's in front of you can be adopted, and I guess I would just.
Because you've already answered the question.
Yes, yes.
So that,
Right, so all we would need is, if everyone says that they have received this negative declaration in advance and has reviewed it, then the chair can entertain the motion.
And this document was presented, the last thing has not changed. This one hasn't changed a word.
so you like, so we're having a negative declaration, but with the understanding that the planning board will be a full environmental review.
Well, yes, there's going to be a review of everything, and that's an understanding of the purview of this plan.
But I think we need to be careful of the language because the positive declaration is what results in. So we want to go not to say a full environmental study because that's a separate thing.
And
Right,
I-
but
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's not, the planning board this is the negative declaration for secret purposes for this district plan. So there's not gonna be another seeker review.
Well, Jamie, the one thing that's a little weird about this is, we did leave the door open for the planning board to do more seeker. In number 8, and I'll just read, this is the permissible segmentation part.
Oh, that's right.
Right. Yeah.
I forgot we
That's what
talked
I
about
wanted to
that.
make sure,
Yeah.
that we
So-
know that
Yeah.
it's in there, and everyone knows it's in
I
there.
forgot about
Yeah.
that from the last meeting, yes.
So I'll just, it's only a couple
You did
sentences,
decide.
I'll read it just to reassure you here. This action may be considered segmented review from the action of site plan approval. However, the board finds that segmented review in this case will be no less protective of the environment and therefore permissible, because the remaining portion of the project will be subject to a full seeker review before any approval or permit is issued. At the time of the site plan review by the planning board, and all open environmental issues and concerns will be fully discussed. The following circumstances, when considered together, justify segmentation, so on and so forth. So, that is a little bit of a quirk to this, in that, oftentimes you'd be put in the position, maybe in some of your other PUDs, where it's like, well, okay, you're gonna neg deck the whole thing now, yes or no? We're not putting you in that position. We're leaving the door open for the planning board to do more seeker.
Right, right, and I think that answers a lot of the question of the person who spoke earlier, which is, this is gonna get a lot more review.
More in depth,
We're
for sure.
done that. Yes, on the roads and the cuts and, whatever the
The
engineers are
soil,
looking
all that
at.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other issue too, is flooding. Yeah.
And we did specifically say in this negative declaration, we flag that. And that there are certain impacts that are called out in the wording of this resolution that say, it's too speculative at this stage. If you look at paragraph 2 in the therefore clause A and B, those paragraphs below say that, because this is a zoning exercise under your code, site plan will identify specific designs and design remedies. That'll be part of the site plan process to deal with issues like what you're talking about that are listed there. Traffic, flooding, drainage, removal of flora and fauna.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I would like to make a motion to issue a negative declaration for secret purposes in the matter of the Twin Ponds District Plan and proposed amendments to the zoning map of the town of Manlius as outlined in the resolution prepared by attorney.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, carries.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the Twin Ponds District Plan for the parcel located at 5441 First Street.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt local law 2023-12 to change the zoning from R5 to PUD for the parcel located at 5440 Burdick Street as outlined in the resolution presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Good luck with the planning board.
Exciting.
Yeah, right.
Peter, we've been working on that for about a year.
And this is a project that's been in front of all town residents
For
for so long.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
It's-
Yeah.
yeah, everyone always wants to know what's going on.
Okay, so next up, agenda item number 5, this was tabled, it's my fault. We had intended to set something up to go over some of the feedback that some of the councils had sent, and we never got there, so we just, we let them know, so we tabled it for tonight. And then next up, we have the continued public hearing for local law amending, definitions, sections and RT zoning for cannabis. So we never closed it, so it's still open. So I would just ask show of hands, who's here to speak for this particular public hearing? Okay, anybody that is online, if you use the raise hand function, let us know you'd like to speak for this public hearing. Okay. I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the public.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Both hearings closed. So, I know that there have been a lot of back and forth and conversations about this. I know we have the recommendation from the county planning board and our planning board. I know we've kind of moved through those. Let's see, Tim, do you wanna kind of?
Yeah.
Talk about some of the changes that we were looking at in this and.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the changes that we'll do, our secret review, on the local law. But I had talked to Counselor the other day and then today.
Yeah.
And, wanted to just kind of talk about some of the changes that were, or some of the recommendations that were made, by the county planning board and by the town planning board. One of the main issues, or the main issue that the county recommended was, let's step back and say what we're doing. We're adding a use under the RT zone, which would be an allowable use, for farm products. The county had suggested that we define what a farm product is. I agree with it. We should do that. So my suggestion is, instead of using the term farm products, we use the term crops, several crops, and also say, because that is an actual defined term under agricultural market law. So we would define it not as farm products, but as crops. Okay. So we would remove all references to farm products and use the term crops. The intention of this, and the supervisor can speak to it more than me, but the intention of this is to allow for crops or farm products to be sold on a temporary basis in existing structures that aren't going to be modified, kind of like, I guess is the term used, I don't know that. It's not defined in any zoning law that I know, but it probably is now, but that's kind of the concept here, is to allow that kind of sale on a temporary basis through an operating permit issued by the code enforcement officer instead of a complete site plan review, because it would only be a temporary sale, 29 days for.
And it's mostly in response to the cannabis grower showcase that the state has basically created to allow for some of the issues with the retail license holder.
Right, and I had a question about the term change or the course right now. Presumably that application came with careful wording, so was farm products chosen specifically? And is that a term that we can easily replace and satisfy with this
So that's
application?
when we looked at, when we looked at the
The definition of crops are included all of.
crops, products, I mean, it's exhaustive.
Okay, to derive products from crops.
Yes. But we can say,
Yeah.
or you can say whatever you're comfortable, like crops really
You say
means
crops,
things that
yes,
are.
well,
I'm seeing, the more specific, the better.
Yeah, and I hear what Councilman Nicholson is saying, because what I'm assuming is that farm products would include things that have been refined or manufactured in some manner.
Correct, and are
And
we,
would include crops, but wouldn't exclude those other things that had been processed.
That's when we were looking at the definition of crops.
It's at
It
everything.
includes a lot of products, all the things that you would expect.
But I think that's, like, farm products includes honey and maple
Yeah.
syrup, and they're not crops.
Crops is actually, crops is inclusive of all those things.
Okay, so it's crops, yes,
So
different.
that's why I'm asking my
Yeah, so I
question.
think that's.
Let's think about this, because I could read you what the definition of crops is, and it might not be as wide ranging as you think, so.
Yeah.
Let's come to a conclusion, and that's what we're really talking about.
Now, before you do that, just a quick question.
Yes.
For William, what is it that you're concerned about
that it could mean? Like, what is like your fear of?
I don't have a fear about what it could mean, I wanna make sure that we're not going through this process to facilitate something with. And that,
Can be out of alignment with the state.
right.
Yeah.
Or we kind of eliminate the purpose for the.
You don't want to be too restrictive.
Right, I mean, and we do have someone in the room who can probably answer this question. So,
So do you have any?
I just have one
If you
comment.
could
Yeah,
just-
please come to that. Thank you. We're calling on a local expert, Nick Agrippino.
So one thing, and I'm not sure how this relates to like the legal side of things, but one thing we're actively trying to do at the Cannabis Association in New York is actually it's defined in an agricultural product for a lot of like zoning things. I've actually seen situations where they try to take like a cultivation grow, right, and make it commercial, and they can't do that, right? And I've seen court cases that that's one in, but it's also important to know that cannabis is not officially defined at the state level as an agricultural good. That's actually something we're actively trying to get the state to put cannabis specifically as an agricultural product. So I don't know if that like plays into anything, because I don't want you to protect, like, just my mind got rolling. It's like, if you say specifically crops, but then it's not technically an agricultural product, did you just
That's
restrict
the point of
yourself?
my question.
Right.
Yeah.
So because the current, it doesn't, I think when we were looking at it before, it includes,
It says field crops, including corn, wheat, oats, rye, barley, hay, potatoes, or dry
Doesn't say.
fruits. No, it says shall include but not be limited to the above. Okay, those are the types of things, fruits, including apples, peaches, vegetables, including tomatoes, snap.
So my question was about this draft using the term farm products, was that done specifically to avoid the problem we're talking about right now?
It's certainly a wider definition. So why don't we do something like crops, as defined in agriculture market law, that can become farm products? Or something like that.
Because right now it says sales of farm product, including cannabis, so it's already, it's
So we
making
say
sure
crops
that
includes
it
cannabis.
The county is saying, define what farm products is, like, what is.
Other than
So,
cannabis.
but I'm saying, if we switch it to sell crops, including
Including
cannabis,
cannabis.
you're still including it, making sure that if we're thinking this is the definition of crops.
Right.
Are we concerned though, and I know that they recommended that we define this, which I can appreciate, but are we like worried that there's gonna be like a glut of honey now being sold at this location because we haven't limited it, like stalks of corn is overflowing from the
Let's
facility,
keep
like
in mind.
like what are we worried
Yeah,
about? is my question.
let's keep in mind what the county has done, they made a comment to the resolution. That's just a comment, it's just a suggestion, you do not have to follow that, if you're comfortable with the term farm products, and you know what it is, and we have our code enforcement officer who will have to define that, if it's not further defined, and if you're comfortable with that, I'm good with it.
I mean, would it include like, if someone brought like a sheep, is that a farm
With
product?
license.
Is that, is livestock a farm product?
The Code of Federal Regulations is defining farm products as an unprocessed product of farms, ranches, nurseries, and forests, and natural and man-made bodies of water that independent producer has cultivated, raised, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean,
That's
In
the
the
other,
definition to farm
that's the other consideration is, you know, obviously dispensary not only carries flower products, but typically processed products, right? Gummies, vaporizers turn into oil. So I guess that is, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another,
So maybe you want to say farm product is defined by the.
well, and derived products.
no.
That's really, getting to the point of my question is that.
I mean, you
I'm
could
assuming to
reference
showcase the multitude of New York State produced products in this realm. And
Yeah.
we define this purpose for eliminating many of those things.
So, yeah, okay, so that, then, because if it's gonna be oils and stuff, that's good.
Right.
Yeah, so we would have to say something like derived products.
you could, I mean, I don't know if this works, I'm not an attorney, but you could,
I mean, you are.
Everyone's an attorney.
you could reference cannabis products as defined under New York State
Yeah.
New York State law.
The cannabis part is already taken care of.
Okay.
We already say,
Okay.
whatever that number, whatever that term is, whether it's farm products, crops, or including cannabis.
It's really not
So,
worrying about.
so it's really just the definition of farm products. Are you comfortable with the term farm
I
product?
think what we would need to add to cover your concern is farm products and derived products. Farm product derived products. Not product.
Farm derived, agricultural.
I feel like we're splitting hairs.
So it's agricultural because agricultural isn't officially recognized within the state level and something, okay. So do we need to define it any further, I guess? What is I also don't understand why the planning board wants this definition, I
Well,
guess.
the county,
Yeah,
Yeah.
why?
Well, I mean, like, I don't want them selling goats
Yeah.
there, right? So I would
okay, so
be
say
inclined
let's,
to limit it more than it, than
Up a
to
goat
the term.
farm type thing?
Yeah, like, I don't want, like, I don't, that's not what I think would be appropriate for that.
all right, how about farm product except, including cannabis,
But not.
but except livestock?
Yeah, I don't want any animals. Or like, I don't want meat, right? Like, we're not trying to open like a grocery store.
The vegan agenda has made its way.
No. People sell meat and I'm not sure
Because
if
we
there's a
have a
lot of
beef-
livestock sales in the town of Manlius.
Well, no, because we have spring fried, release,
Yeah.
cold spring beef farm.
Yeah, I mean, which I'm fine with. This is not the vegan agenda.
I mean, just, if I could just bring up one more thing too, I mean, because we all know that the RT zone is very small, and I think the town board suggested that you wanna even have removed that from your code for a while now anyway. So
It was just.
all of this goes away when that happens, if you guys end
It
up
was a
doing that,
coincidence
or
the site
to have it
made a lot of
rezoned
sense
or anything
within
like
the
that too.
RT zone. And made sense that we modify the RT zone.
Heather, did your definition say water, man-made bodies of water?
This definition.
Right.
I'm just looking online, I'm cherry picking here, so I
So
don't.
I see a part of the say man-made bodies of water, because I don't think we want them to be adding man-made bodies of water.
No,
No, I think
no,
it's
no,
like
it's
raw,
like
raw
Farm
water.
fish,
Right, but
right,
did it,
We don't fish,
I
we
didn't
don't
know,
have
I'm
fish
asking
for
that,
livestock.
right, I was asking if that definition said that, because if it did say man-made bodies of water, do we want that option to be available?
I guess
That's what I'm saying, start thinking of modern.
I'm interested in being consistent with what I want to define as
With
products.
being fish.
That's, so as long as we're
Yeah,
not
no one's-
generating language.
can you repeat that, that's something
Because
that's
I
like.
did a lot of that.
That's, I think that what Heather read meant, products that came from one, not building a physical body of water.
So no matter what,
What is that?
Well, that's right. Aside from the speculative stuff, I mean, we're here about cannabis, so I think it's important for us to not generate something inconsistent with definitions that aren't being settled upon. So if there's something that is already determined to be cannabis products that would be considered farm products, let's use consistent language.
So we don't. RT doesn't define it. We
No.
don't.
But no,
But
because.
MRT.
I'm sorry, I thought you said
If there's already a body, a body of terminology.
Mhm.
that
Could
would
we
be
say that, like,
consistent.
in conjunction with, as defined by the state agency?
So the way that, just looking at the cannabis grower showcase, front page. The initiative allows licensed cannabis growers and processors to showcase New York cannabis products to consumers at events where consumers can purchase those cannabis products from licensed retailers. So, I mean, it looks like New York cannabis products
Is a thing.
would be inclusive of all of the things that will be selling. If that works. for
Okay,
you.
why don't we just say like MRTA approved?
Well, we can look into the law, find exactly how it's defined, because it's the other thing, this is specifically for the grower showcase, which is new.
Yeah.
So we can look at that exact language, and make sure we're using that.
That sounds great, 'cause I don't wanna generate
Yeah.
something tonight that's inconsistent.
Yeah, that would just be more confusion.
what final language.
Okay, we're ready for the planning board questions.
But there was one of them.
You were talking about this, the county planning board, then we have the Manlius planning board, and then we have the.
I don't have,
I can bulk with that.
I didn't.
So we are not planning on voting on this tonight.
So we'll have to do some work on that.
So I have them in front of me. Number one was the law needs more study, needs more detail. Okay. Number two is the definition into retail, including cannabis, it shouldn't be there, but open it up to just being retail anywhere, it needs to be fixed.
Well, the intent that we had kind of set out was to change the definition, so that the existing zones that allow for retail, allow for this type of use. Just like, this retail includes like, liquor sales, and so you have it within our zoning code where it's allowed, but then you still have the New York State regulations that govern the specifics of where it could be placed within that allowable zone.
So the intention was
Yes.
to allow cannabis sales in any zoning that allows retail. And the only kind of one that was a little questionable was RM.
But
And
even
we looked at that at the last meeting, and there were restrictions on how you can do retail.
Yeah,
You can't just open a
So it's
retail.
not bad.
Any sense that somebody would do it.
Additional step, like diligence.
Alright, so that language was something
So
that
we're
we all
okay.
understood, wanted, and you feel are comfortable. Number three, contain a treatment of the subject matter. I'm not sure what that means, but should be treated similar to liquor sales.
Which the state level.
The law that the state has proposed or is not sufficient for the need of this board. Planning board of this board. And the town local law needs to state specifics as, and what is right for our community.
Yeah, and that was the opposite of what we wanted to do, because we wanted to go with the state regulations.
I mean, they did it, the state laws.
Yes.
So you're comfortable with state law and the regulations that the state has in place to regulate the license. Number four, should not be in the same sentence as residential. This is RT. RT is right next to residential. It is meant to be transitional between businesses and residential. The village is residential.
And to be clear, the RT portion is simply for these temporary sales, not for long-term sales.
Not for when they would have to.
Yes.
Yes, because you have to go to the planning board for more than 30 days.
Which was my point, was to add a phrase that, because of the way we're only amending certain sections of the code, is to add a phrase that says notwithstanding the rest of the code, because if you just read RT, it has all these references to site planning and so forth,
Oh,
that
right.
gets confusing, so I wanted to add a sentence to we're obviously rewriting it today anyway. And the other thing I wanted to specify is that any signage would be in compliance with 155.26.
Is that in RT as it is?
Well, it was in 155.25, which is permanent signage, we're
I see.
allowing temporary signage, which is
So
different code.
that's, okay,
There's
that's
a
good.
lot of, there's signage law too in the New York State laws.
Oh.
Very limited on what they can advertise or how they can.
But, okay, so the enforcement officer to be sure that they're. So that was, so I wanted to suggest some of those amendments to this law before we bring it back.
Yeah, that's good.
I can also send you some information on the New York State's pretty in-depth on signage. Yeah.
All right, just adding this to this right now. That's for speaking.
Nick, if you could send that to our codes officer, that would be.
Thank you for lending a lot of time to us on that, so I know, yeah, we're always, you're deeply involved in this at very senior levels, so it's great to have you in the community to have this kind of at the moment.
Sarah, did you have a section with the sign?
Yeah, 155.26.
26.6. 155.26.
Temporary signage. Anything else?
And then the other issue that Sarah had and the planning board also mentioned is the 30-day window to clear how many times a year can you get an hours
Oh,
in 30 days. If you want to limit that to say you can only get an operating permit twice a year, 3 times a year, 30, how many tranches of 30 days?
Reasonable, it's only.
Are they allowed consecutive? Can they be consecutive or are they?
No. You can't have, like, if you got a break, if you went 29 days, or if you have a break for 1 day, then you can apply again for another operating permit. You want to limit the number of operating permits for a 30-day period that you can get.
Great, I'm comfortable with it, I just seems an arbitrary number.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, because it keeps it to a quarter of the year, so if it's seasonal, it fits within one season.
quarterly season.
yeah, I think 4 means like having 4, I don't, I think it's arbitrary. I
Three
don't-
would keep it, so it would be a quarter.
I think typically things are done, you're breaking out the year like that, 7/4, like your financial.
Do we know what the intended lifespan of this grower showcase phenomenon is? What's the-
Until they fix the rest of the
So,
problems, which.
yeah.
So indefinite.
It's not meant to be long-term, it's technically to January 1st, but I will say you might wanna be careful on limiting it, because there's a lot of pressure at the state level where they might end up extending it a couple of months, because really they're not gonna start approving the vast majority of the retail licenses until January, February. So most of those probably won't be open until the May, June time period. So I think those,
I
they
don't
could
think I would want to
consider.
limit then, not knowing some of these
Well,
details, and
because you
they have to
don't-
come back and apply.
But if there's no limit, that means that like they're bypassing the need for a zone change, site plan, and all these other.
No, but they're gonna come back and apply.
They have to apply to it.
Yes, but if they can
Oh,
continuously
not
come back,
Yeah.
and there's no limit.
Yeah.
Then they are skirting all the other ways of setting up a permanent business.
Yeah,
And let's face it, in the available RT parcels, that's a heavy wait list. There's other people lining up for a 30-day.
And you do need, because you need the municipality approval for the showcase thing, so you could have it if the board wanted to, if you have to reach that or get. In other words, you can write the approval letter, if you choose to, you can specify a time period, so that you're saying only for this time period. And then you do it in tranches, because you can't do a showcase unless you have to.
So do we want to keep on deciding how many times a year?
I think we should play out a number of scenarios.
Yeah, let's do
figure out-
that, we gotta work on the other language.
So it's like, you know, like, so someone would apply, it goes to our code enforcement officer, and then they'll come to us.
No, you would do the operating permit, they would have 30 days, or 30 days scratch. They would operate in there, and then they could come back and apply again. And the priority is if they are doing it for 30 days, applying again, then 30 days and applying again.
Right,
Just-
they do that sort of regularly.
Yes, because in that case, we would be saying, apply for your zone change.
And do you the whole thing?
Yeah, just say, then we will ask them.
So instead of limiting it, do you want to say that you have to wait X amount of days in between each 30 days?
Well, we can also say it's not intended to replace the other process and say it's so that we're creating information in the law that's clear about what would be an abuse of it basically versus.
So we
I'm
want
just
to,
gonna put in,
Yeah.
I'll put in language that says something like, under no circumstances shall more than 3 operating permits be issued for a specific site in any calendar year. And then you guys can decide how many you want.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
And then, so I'll have it done,
Okay, but.
and I'll send it out to everybody, you can look at it, you can mark it
So
up
I just
however you
wanna say
want.
one thing. That to say, supposing grower A does a showcase in site B, and then grower C comes
Mhm.
45 days later, has to do another 30 days, it's at the same site, but it's a different application, it's a different provider.
That's why we're saying site, like, you can't,
Yeah.
because it's the site that's gonna be problematic, right?
It's the retailer that's applying.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's why it's kind of the set.
That, I'm not tying it to individuals, I'm tying it to the site.
That was gonna be my question.
Criticism.
I was gonna ask, like, well, couldn't they just have their friend do it, and like their, what, like their whoever.
What we're trying to do is prevent the impact on the neighborhood. And saying, this is only gonna be for 29 days or less. So we can deal with it, figure out if it's causing a problem.
Yep.
And then if it's causing a problem, then we might have to issue an operating permit. And so it's really kind of a site-specific thing that we're trying to address and allow because it's temporary. So I'm not overly bothered by that, and.
I just don't want it to become like I know we wanna limit it, but I also don't wanna make it administratively burdensome for people who's trying to do it. It's like striking.
Also,
like
we'll see
walking that
the new language, we'll take a look at it, consider it in 2 weeks.
Okay, let's go back to the. Notice should be sent to neighbors specifically within 500 feet of the district. We don't do that for operating permits. Don't do that. Operating permit is not appropriate method for this use. That's what the town board.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
That-
That it's not appropriate.
So that's what we're doing.
Oh,
Operating, they're saying operating permit is not appropriate method for this use.
It's for a temporary use, yeah.
That the general comments of public hearing should not be called until comments of this board are received by the town board.
Which is why we have the public hearing.
Yes.
Look to close this meeting.
All right, so based on what I'm hearing, I will have something redrafted. It's not gonna be substantially different than what we have, so that I don't think there's any need to call for another public hearing because
We're
the
responding to
change-
you.
the changes are really being reflected in what the planning boards are having in the town. Making
And the public.
recommendations.
Okay,
That's all I got.
so next up, we have our preliminary budget public hearing with, Councilor Denton, do you want to walk us through the presentation first? Yeah.
So this is the annual preliminary budget.
Which is on the website.
Yes, this is the one, this is, so, again, a lot of these are the same each year, but I do wanna make sure if you haven't seen them before, that I do explain them. It's important to understand municipal budgets are based on taxable property. The town budget is divided into 3 parts. So there's the town-wide, that includes the villages. Then there's part-town, and that does not include the villages. And then there is special districts. And special districts could include if you're in our trash and brush district, it can include over 6,000 people in that district, or it also could be as few as 7 parcels, which is one of the water districts we have. So they can vary in size, and this is why your tax bill will be different, because it depends on what districts you're in, and fire districts too. So this is just the cost of health insurance, the employee health insurance over the past 10 years. This year it did look like it's going down, so hopefully that trend continues.
How do we know, how our benefit that we found with Medicare affected
Well,
this?
so that was effective in 2023,
Oh, okay.
so.
So we kept it really from growing by half, it was flat last year. maybe
Yeah,
it's
it was
savings.
flat, because we did that
Okay.
last year. Okay, so this is the 4 funds that the town board are really responsible for, and that's Fund A and DA, which again are town-wide, and then B and DB are just only town residents. So this is just the expenses. This, I'm just gonna read what I have here. This shows the town expenses for the past 10 years. 2024, again, is the preliminary budget, so we are still working on it. We'll be hopefully bringing that down before we pass the final budget. And this does not include any revenue that has been brought in to bring the number down. And then this does not include any ARPA spending, as that is just a one-time flat exchange there. So then where do we get our revenue from? Primarily, we do get that from property taxes. Then there is the SRO and SPO programs from the school districts in the town. There is mortgage tax fees, franchise fees, grants, ARPA's in there, transportation, recreation, that's where we get the revenue. To go into ARPA, we do need to allocate all of ARPA funds by the end of 2024, so we are working on that. We have approximately 30% left to allocate. And some of the things we have allocated for may need to be reallocated for, as we've received grant funding to support some of those initiatives, so we potentially have a little bit more money left in there to allocate to some other things.
when we generally speaking have, the highway garage that we're looking at right now, that would be a good place for all of that money that we find a grant for, or find another funding source for that money to move towards the highway garage.
Yeah, no, so we have like, things we can put money towards there, and then we just have to spend all of ARPA funds by the end of 2026. So that's ARPA. So then this is the town-wide preliminary budget. The little chart in the corner shows you the whole budget, and this bigger chart shows you the two funds that are town-wide, Fund A and DA. So this is where you can see where your taxes go. A good amount of it does go to the police department, as they are our largest department. And this year I was able to get a more true cost department to department by being able to include the employee benefits within those departments. So it's just more of an idea. If you look at the chart last year, there would have been a big slice for employee benefits, and this time they're incorporated into it.
More reflective.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more reflective. You can kind of see that cost there. And then this is showing just that little slice of Harttown. Again, that would be only town residents, and that includes highway and planning and zoning. Our planning department did see a big increase this year in revenue. And so if that trend does continue, they will be able to hire an employee to help out with the additional work, but then that would be offset by the revenue they do bring in. A little report on there. Budget.
So I just click that into context. Is if you were listening earlier, we were talking about this huge development coming in, that will be more work for the planning department. So, but the fee developers also pay fees for that project. So those fees could be directed toward another worker in the planning department. So that's what we're talking about. It would be an expansion of personnel, but the fees will cover the cost of that, not taxpayers.
So this is the preliminary budget with our special districts. This includes special districts. So now you can kind of see the full pie that that we taxed for, right? So there's police in here, highway, fire protection, sewer. If you're again, so maybe you're not in the trash district, then that would be in your at the end of the year bill. But this is just showing the full pie of all the funds that are in that final budget when you get that stack of papers. And then so then this is just showing you town-wide versus special districts. So town-wide, those 4 funds are 68% of our budget, and then special districts, fire, trash, drainage, et cetera, about 32%. And then they can break out the town hall services there, and then also broke out planning and development. Again, that's just for the B fund. And then town Manlius assessment. Once again, our assessment has increased this year by 12%. Hopefully, it will start cooling down for residents next year. You can see the trend here in the total taxable value and the total assessed value. And the difference there is the exemptions there. Then this is the tax rate. So currently for town residents, the tax rate has decreased by -2.75%, and for village residents, -4.4%, which is good news if your assessment did not go up. But as we have all their most large assessments have continued to increase, you may be paying a little more. So our goal, of course, is to bring that number down with some grants and revenue that we've learned that we have received, and so we'll be adding that to the preliminary budget to bring those bring the property taxes down a little bit more. And once we finalize those amendments, the preliminary budget, I'll update these slides to reflect those changes. So again, that's why your comments are key here. So this is one of my favorite slides. It really shows you where your taxes are going. Town hall services include court, clerk, assessment, etc. And then this would vary depending again on those special districts that you're in. And that is the presentation. Again, we just want to hear your thoughts to let us know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Always.
Makes it a lot easier.
We're keeping our fingers crossed, about a grant from DEC that would be $75,000 that would, or we know $175,000 SAM grant funding that we could be approved for. So these are examples of the kinds of numbers that can help bring this preliminary budget down.
So with that, I would, for a motion to open, or wait to reading, of notes.
So I'll make a motion to raise the reading of public notice.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Carries.
I make a motion to open the public hearing with regard to the preliminary budget.
Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So, just show of hands, would like to make a comment on the budget. Anyone who's in the Zoom attendance, please use the raise hand function. I'll just take a look at that, but anyone here? Yeah, come on up.
Promise my wife has been saying,
How do we get that right?
but I'm always. Right.
You won't
Uh,
know.
I'm gonna text her right now.
Pardon?
Text Sonia right now.
This is Tom Bassett, retired real estate lawyer, and longtime town resident. So my question just had to do with the methodology and the preparation of that preliminary budget. I think that I saw that there was a projected increase year over year of about 7% or preliminarily at least. And so there's inflation, and I just wondered if there was any particular items, line items that were that attention should be called to, as far as being anything other than kind of an inflation factor built into each particular line item, because you could go down each item and project an increase. And so is anything particularly different from last year, from this year to next year, or in prior years? Is there anything that we should know?
I think there's a couple.
Yeah, so I think the biggest one that we're seeing is wages. So we have both our highway contract up this year for negotiation and our PBA contract with the police department, or with the officers this year. And so, we are seeing large contracts being negotiated kind of across not only the region, but the country. And so when we asked our department heads to put their budgets together, they were budgeting in, reference to that. So normally, what we've seen is 1% and 2% wage increases over the course of time, and we're seeing more of it. The contract negotiations are ongoing, but like I said, when the budget was prepared, it was, higher than normal to prepare for what was negotiated. Also, we did the pay equity study. I think we wrapped that up last year. Yeah, the study last year. We made some pretty significant changes to some employees' compensation. We ended up with a few outliers to the upper end of the pay scale and a number of outliers to the lower end of the pay scale. We made some adjustments mid-year last year that were then also kind of doubled in the 2023 budget. And then in 2024, we are essentially completing the changes needed to respond to that pay equity study. And that means after years and years of 1% and 2% budget increases, and then other reasons where people were getting more of their wages in each budget, we've now gotten it to a point where it is fair across when you consider time with the town, experience, training, all of these things. So I would say it's really wages. Wages is one of the biggest increases we're seeing with this budget, because we ask the questions, everyone paid fairly. And then also too, because we're negotiating with, our two unions, which make up the majority of our employees.
I'll say something further on pay equity. Not only is it the moral thing to do to make sure that people who have been here a long time weren't penalized just for being here for a long time, but also for the resilience of sort of our government activity. If those folks retire and we're not able to pay a living wage for an important job, we won't be able to find people to work here. So it's just an important thing to do as part of maintaining our human talent infrastructure at the town.
Well, and two, conversation we have with the police department all the time is that retention is the most important thing. We want to keep officers. They go through academy, then they go through field training, and then they become an officer almost a year later after they've been hired. And, for every officer we keep every year, we're saving money because we're not hiring someone new, training them, getting them through the whole process. And then having someone who doesn't have those years of experience. So, I think especially too, in the police budget, we looked at 2 additional positions in response to the staff allocation study we did. And especially too with the contracts, to understand that retention is the most important piece. I think, to Heather's point, when we lose someone, it's not like we go and hire someone at the same wage and we haven't lost anything. When that person walks out of the door with 10 and 15 years experience, the town loses kind of an amount of value that's not reflected by that wage. And so if we continue to offer competitive wages to keep talented people, the residents get better services, they get them more efficiently. And quite honestly, I'll speak for myself, but as someone who's only been at town hall every day for the last 2 years, this place couldn't run without the people that are here for 5 and 10 and 15 years, because, I might look at a problem and think it's gonna take this much time to solve, and instead I can talk to one of the many fantastic employees and say, how do we solve this problem? And they go, well, we've solved it before, and here's how we solved it, we're gonna do it again. So it's,
Investing in our people is incredibly.
exactly, so.
I didn't tell my wife, but.
I'm gonna text her.
Text Becky, she'll
I'll just text her.
She'll come down hard. So I'm Craig Dudzak. By way of context, I have not been on this kind of negotiation, so my question reflects some ignorance, albeit vicariously. My wife, Cindy, was on the JD teacher negotiating team, so I sort of picked up some of the things. And the central question comes down to, if you make a budget that anticipates a wage increase, does that create the expectation that it'll be at least that much? Or does it have the effect of limiting the ask from the other side because the budget only allows for this much of a wage increase? So do you understand what I'm getting at? On the one hand, you may be leading a wage increase by saying, well, we're going to put X amount in the budget, anticipating the wages will go up. On the other hand, are you constraining the negotiating partner by saying, well, we can only do this much? And I know with JD, that was one of the issues. Oh, well, we've only put this much in the budget, so we can't give you more, kind of thing. So if you could respond to that, I then have 1 or 2 other comments.
Yeah, what we tried to do was budget smart, but when we went into those negotiations, we were talking to our employees.
I was gonna say distances, there are distances.
The goal is always to, we get a request from our workers. If the budget does impact that, I can't speak to that, you'd have to ask them. But when we go in, we have to wear 2 hats. We have to wear the hat of, we are writing a budget, we need to keep costs as low as possible. But at the same time, these are our employees, and we want to make sure that they are fairly compensated. So, what I would say is, as a person who was on both the negotiation teams, and is on the negotiation teams, we didn't go in saying, we can only get to this number because it's all we budgeted for. We knew the range that we were looking for, we know what we could afford, and we worked with our partners across the table to make sure that they were getting what they thought was fair and that what we could handle budget-wise. So I can't speak to if it impacted the other party, but for us, we went in as if there was no budget pre-planned. But the goal was not to, plan for 1 or 2% raises and then come out with contracts that are not that, and then have the preliminary budget or the final budget even be massively different than what we've seen previously in the budget process.
So the other part of, I guess, the comment question is, in my previous life, I was at SU, and for 4 of those years, I was on the Senate Budget Committee and chaired it for 2 years. And one of the recurring issues that
happened was, I see in the agenda, there are incentives you're trying to build in. And one of the things that happens over time is that long-term employees see something called salary compression. Because the new hires negotiate, and of course, on a union, it's probably a little bit different because there are set limits. But the compression may occur because long-term employees don't get the same benefit that a new employee gets because he or she negotiates a different kind of advantage or benefit or some other structure in the wages. Is this an issue that is addressed, perhaps the wage study and the equity that you're dealing with has addressed,
I
or?
think that was the point of
Yeah.
That was exactly
Okay,
why we did it. And we learned through the process that it gave us, it was a lot of work for the town staff to do because, pre-work for the town staff to do because you do a regression analysis and you look at the data and you kind of figure out what the patterns are. But to even get there and make sure we were comparing apples to apples, and okay, I think had to work with everyone to sort of relook at actually our job description, update, and make sure actually the work reflected that. People had to take time to reflect on their own position and write down profiles. So we now have to have a process that doesn't do this once in a while, but that it's built into our practice now. So that is what we did for the study.
Well, that was, I think, what we've done so far with the study is respond to what's happened. And moving forward, we have to look better at how we compensate employees year to year so that we don't end up with that wage compression, which is exactly the hole we're kind of getting out of with the last 2 years.
Yeah, because the way it functioned, as I understand it, on the other side of it is that individual department heads would advocate for people over time, through this budget process, but we didn't have like a full scale look at tenure and skill sets and responsibilities. It wasn't looked at in the big picture.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Motion to close, no?
Yeah.
No, no hands. Okay,
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we will take some of that feedback, we will look at a couple of the numbers we're waiting on. And on November 15th, we will go through the changes that have been made from the preliminary to the final, and then that final will be adopted. Great. So,
I can update Sue's with information.
yeah, sure. Okay, next up, we have the peace officer sign-on bonus. So this is, we had it on the agenda last week with a couple edits. With a couple artifacts of the editing process in there. So now it's updated. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at it. But the goal here again was we have an incentive program for transferring officers. And what we have found is that there are a pool of peace officers that if they transfer to, or if they come work for us, they don't require the whole process, the very long process of academy. And so basically is any of those peace officers that are looking to join us, if we can train them in-house and not send them out to the academy, they would be eligible for this incentive. And again, the goal here is always, if we can't keep the people forever, we can bring in people that are already trained, that we just need to, work with and get them to understand our processes, rather than having someone fresh who's got to go through academy and then everything, so. That's the goal. And so it's still, it's structured $6,000 over the course of 3 years, same as the other one, and so, any other questions?
So it's just really an expansion of a category for a sign-on bonus that we offer.
Bonus that we already have, yeah. So, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the town of Manlius Police Department peace officer hiring incentive program as presented tonight.
Wait a second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Question on that too, I
Yes.
just would approve the last one, there was supposed to be some kind of review, and like, how does that fit together?
let's throw it on the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah. That it was working or not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Chief Sally, Councilor Denton was just saying, could we go ahead and just take a quick look at how the incentive program is working and how it's being utilized?
My question though too is, like, it's recent, so I don't know if like you're.
It may not be.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure, absolutely.
thank you. Okay, so I know we have a presenter for item number 9.
Yes, okay.
So this is in regards to the landfill solar project. You wanna?
Yeah.
Walk through this?
So, as you might have seen, driving, up Tillman Road, the solar panels, are up and that project is nearing completion. We're expecting the development of that project to culminate in December with it being interconnected to the grid, at which point it will be producing electricity and then like people need to be taking energy that it's producing, otherwise it's just putting it onto the grid and no one's actually buying it. So we are not going to hear from a company, they're going to explain a little bit more of the process for building that array. So we, if you're familiar with DeWitt's project just next door, that's a distributed generation project, which means that the town of DeWitt is taking all of the electricity that project is generating for the purposes of town of DeWitt. So like they've got far more, a far greater need for electricity than the town of Manlius. So if we started developing our project is not a DG or distributed generation project, it's a CDG or community distributed generation project. So this allows for many people to participate in the project and buy electricity from the solar panels that the town of Manlius has put on our window. So I'll turn it over to our partners at Simplified Solar, and they can explain a little bit more of the details.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Listen, I have a presentation that should take a few minutes. I'll run through it, and then I guess we can open it up to questions and go from there. All right, 1 second. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So yes, we'll briefly go over our community solar municipality program. Solar Simplified is the company that we're representing. I'm Sasha Lukovenko. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing. And my colleague Kim Dana is on here as well, and she handles our community relations. We've been working with Abundant Solar, who you are probably very familiar with. They're the operator of the farm that is now almost completed and projected to go live at the end of the year. And then the way we work with them is we will be the customer-facing entity that holds the exclusive rights to the project. We as a company typically focus on going very, very local, and that's why we're talking to you guys. And it seems to work the best and resonate with the community the best when they actually can, when the residents can actually benefit from the panels that are there. So yeah, with that said, we'll roughly go over what's community solar, why it's important, a few benefits, how Solar Simplified comes into play, a couple of case studies, and wrap it up with that. And again, I'm assuming most people are pretty familiar with the process, so I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So as a general overview, community solar is a state-run guaranteed savings program, which allows homeowners, renters, and businesses to enjoy the benefits of solar power without installing solar panels on their property. The solar panel is already there, so they can service the part of the community that don't have the ability to put panels on their own roofs. It all happens virtually. You're not switching providers. This is, you can think of it as an add-on to your current utility bill. as you'll see the line items directly there with the energy produced on your behalf and the value of it reflected there as a discount. So yeah, an estimated 85% of households can neither own nor lease rooftop solar for a number of reasons, renting being a huge one, obviously. Rooftop can't support solar systems, living in a shaded area, prohibitively expensive for some, so on and so forth. So and that's the population that we're servicing through community solar. So yeah, the benefits, most obvious one, obviously, guaranteed savings on the solar credits that are applied to the utility bill. There are no fees of any kind. We don't commit people to long-term contracts. Who wants to participate? The customer agreements are on a month-to-month basis. So yeah, no installation required. They get priority registration to the solar project right there in Manlius. And we also have a portfolio of other upcoming farms, solar projects in the area. So should there be more demand from the residents of Manlius beyond the capacity of the project in town, we will be able to offer further capacity in the surrounding region within the National Grid utility territory. So we can accommodate those customers, reduce the carbon footprints and support clean environment. Obviously, some nice benefits there as well. For the for the municipality specifically, obviously, you're providing all the benefits for the constituents. Additionally, the municipal accounts qualify for the program just as well. You can enroll all of those if you wish to do so and benefit from the savings just as much. Community solar contributes toward qualifications for various NYSERDA climate certificates and grants, help with the carbon neutrality goals of the states. And the crucial one here is for every enrolled account within the Manlius municipality, you would receive $50 civic contribution. That's just directly from us, and it's from Solar Simplified, an incentive for participating. That's beyond the NYSERDA climate grants and incentives there. So I think I spoke already a little bit about Solar Simplified, so we don't necessarily need to dive into that. A couple of case studies that I think are relevant, for example, Lancaster and Erie County was actually our very first municipality that we started working with. About 3 years ago, they enrolled all of their municipal accounts. They're saving $5,000 annually just by enrolling. Over 700 accounts enrolled within the municipality. That's roughly 4% of the 20,000 population there. So far, we've saved the residents about $175,000 that they're seeing on their utility bills, and the municipality received over $35,000 in civic contributions. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview of the program. Obviously, next steps, I guess you would approve the municipality program, sign the agreement between the town and ourselves. We would do a mailer campaign as kind of the primary marketing tool where everybody would receive, meaning the residents and local businesses would receive an overview of the program along with a one-page enrollment form and a prepaid return envelope. And then people can enroll. And following that, we would provide the civic contributions once the enrollments are processed. So that kind of wraps it up. And I guess now we open it up to some questions if there are any.
Can you go back to the Lancaster example? I just wanted to discuss it a little bit more. So
Yeah, of course.
We entered into a lease agreement with a developer. That developer pays the town to lease our landfill to them. So that's income to the town. We could then sign up as a municipality with all of our national grid accounts, and we will save 10% off of our electric bill. Then we will receive $50 for every customer who signs up to participate in the array, and we're estimating around 700 accounts based on like average size, so that could look different, it will surely look different. In addition to generating clean energy, this is a cost saver and a revenue generator for the town of Manlius. But that's just for us specifically. Then all of our residents who can sign up will also receive that 10% reduction in their electric bill for however many kilowatt hours they're able to get from the array. So this is just quite literally a win-win-win. We're not sacrificing on anything. It's just money coming into the town and cost savings for us and for our residents.
But it's interesting too, the roughly $35,000 is like a one time when people sign up. That would be a good way to look at, as we do the highway expansion, perhaps looking at solar panels there, or if there's a future development within the town, and that money would be good if we were to put it towards further development of solar. So
Yeah, and NYSERDA, it makes us even better candidate for the NYSERDA grants each year.
You just reminded me, we
Correct.
also, once we do the community solar array and we're signing people up, we received $5,000 a year and a half ago for clean energy communities through NYSERDA. NYSERDA just re-upped that. So it's a very small number. I think it's 25 people that if we were to facilitate, which of course we would, we'll be signing 700 people up. 25 people will get another $5,000 grant from NYSERDA. It's great. So it's just unlocking like a ton of financial opportunities for our municipality.
So I understand this at the heart to be, hey, you're working with Abundant, it's time to turn this farm on, and we're giving you first crack at these 700 slots.
Correct.
Since they're in your backyard. And we have other farms, if you still want to sign up for us and not have to be.
That's sums it up very well, correct.
Okay, that's awesome, and there are great benefits. My question for you is on the marketing. I think there'll be so many questions. I think we want to work really closely with you on this to make sure that, I mean, we're lucky to have somebody like our town clerk and Elaine Denton be great at helping us communicate visually. We have found that the Eagle Bulletin, which is our local paper of record, is something that people pay attention to. So in addition to, or carved out of your mailing plan, I would like us to consider asking you to do a special advertisement in this local paper, and maybe allow us also to work with their digital ads so that it's, I just think it's a great way to reach folks and
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
that would be great.
we'll be very happy to do so, and it really depends on the municipality. We now have 4 years of experience of working with various municipalities in New York and various other states. So it's really, we're here to help. Whatever is the best avenue to reach your residents, we are absolutely happy to consider and help with it. And yes, we will be working very closely with, I'm guessing, Caitlin, or whoever else wants to be involved on approving anything that goes out to your residents, because we would never, just publish something that has not been approved. So yes, we're very much excited about this.
Thank you. People definitely need to understand the difference between a company that's just looking generally to sign people up and one that's related to our project. And so thank you. That's something we want to make sure we pursue and use it as a real educational tool. Thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm working with this company specifically, Solar Simplified, and I apologize earlier, I said Simplified Solar, I knew I was saying it wrong.
That's totally fine.
10 times in the last week, but if we were not to move forward with Solar Simplified, like if the town of Manlius did not sign a contract with them, they would simply build this project up with people from around National Grid territory that would be allowed to participate. So it's not like we have a choice. We don't have like different vendors that we could select from. We either partner with Solar Simplified to make sure town residents can get
signed up and partner with them to do like the marketing and do it in Hoboken and everything.
Caitlin, this is because this is simplified as the vendor that abundant.
Correct, yeah, they have
Correct,
exclusive
yeah.
rights to partner.
Yeah, we
So
we
they
have
don't
we have the
have-
exclusive contract with Abundant Solar on all projects that we work on with them. But you know, I don't the way you make it sound that you guys don't have a choice. You know, it's just but like we typically want to work with the municipalities where the projects are located because we find it works out the best. People get the best responses. You know, the residents are excited about the project being there and actually having the ability to benefit from it, like actual tangible benefits, savings on their utility bills. So yes, it goes a long way. So yeah, so this is truly, like you said, win-win-win all around.
Yeah, but there were some questions about whether we could work with a different company, so I just wanted to clear that up.
Yep, I appreciate that.
The lease says that we are supposed to have a preference for our town of Manlius residents, so I don't understand why we
That
have to
was-
sign this.
That was for the time period, isn't it? Would they fix it time?
We sign up with them.
Yeah.
It's, they're only marketing it to town of Manlius residents first.
Yeah.
If they don't, if people don't sign up, they'd be able to go other places and sell that. But their program is for town of Manlius residents.
Tenant agrees to provide notice and information to town residents for its subscription services by way of public meetings, mailing notifications, and notification on the town's website and social media pages.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I'm
the
doing.
lease, but this is what they're doing. The lease says that they have to do it anyways, and we're saying right now that we have to sign this other document here in order, with this company, in order for them to give a preference, and if we don't sign it, then it's gonna go to anybody that they want.
This is abundance benefit for this program.
There are other, people have a choice to choose, they don't have to only choose this company too. There are other companies that if you wanna get community generated.
Off our rancho.
No,
We don't own it.
Right, and according to the lease we have with Abundant, our town residents are supposed to be getting their preference.
And
So now,
So Alyssa, it sounds to me like they're going to be administering that provision of
Right.
the lease.
I understand that, but the statement I just heard was that if we don't sign this document, they're gonna offer it to anybody without giving our residents a
I
preference.
think if I understand your question, Alyssa, it's that how can that be? If the
Right.
lease requires you,
Right.
whether we sign today or not.
Right. How can they go anywhere without giving
well, I
our
think that's
residents?
just a function of us not signing anything happens, but I don't think, I'm hoping we will.
Well, so that was my question. So with this municipality agreement, is this the town buying it?
so
Or is that
we would sign up for them to market the kilowatt hours
to our residents?
to our residents.
Right.
And we would sign up.
We would then-
As a customer.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
So that's
so once it's opened up.
Let's talk a little bit about preference, like, basically, I think people need to know that it's a first come, other than the town probably signing up, and we're probably getting some preference. For residents, it's a first come, first serve. I would want to highlight this for people, particularly people who live around the, solar projects, that they should sign up, because I think they deserve, there have been some neighbors who felt frustrated that they'd have to look at the panels, and I want them to know that this is available so that they can actually sign up and benefit directly from it.
Well, we have their contact information, so we should be reaching out.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I don't think we can show a preference to one area or another for this marketing, and I think since it's a benefit to the town residents, it's a 10% discount, I don't think we can.
You would do the program, say everyone is available, like this is available for everyone, and then in your own circles, say, hey, you should sign up for
Well,
this.
yeah, absolutely.
But again, how can that be? How can it be that our town residents all of a sudden aren't gonna be getting a preference if we don't sign this municipality agreement?
I think that's a question for Abundant, isn't it?
And overseeing the lease. right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can ask that
That's a
question.
question for Abundant, we can think about it.
I have a question for you guys. For 700 people is not everybody that lives in the town of Manlius. So we are also considering a community aggregated solar program that would be available for a broader number of people. It's been a little bit confusing with regard to community aggregated solar, whether if people are enrolled in a direct solar program such as this community solar, whether they are then not allowed to participate in the community aggregated program, or if it's on top of or separate from? Do you have any feedback on that?
So a community aggregation does not prohibit somebody from participating in community solar. Similar terms or similar names of the programs, but they're not mutually exclusive at all. If you guys have an aggregator that provides a rate for the whole town, that's totally fine. And then whoever opts into the community solar program can see discounts coming from the production of the solar farm. So yeah, not mutually exclusive at all.
Thank you, that's good. So we will continue pursuing that option, and then people who sign up, the first 700 people who sign up for this would then get an additional 10% off, whatever that is.
That's the basic overview, yes.
Thank you.
What's the time period for, what's the timeline you'd be shooting for? And how long does it typically take to advertise and then like fill out the spots?
So the project is going live by the end of the year. That's the timeline that we're being given. So basically, we want to start advertising to the residents as soon as possible. Typically, it takes a month or two, depending on the size of the municipality. But I think I'm guessing here, but yeah, I would say maybe a month to 3 months max to fill the project.
So we will consider that part of the lease, I'll ask some questions of London, and then.
So I'll talk to them about tree stuff too, so.
Yeah, we've been talking to them already, so, thank you very much for the presentation. If you have any further questions, we'll reach out.
Please do.
And, yeah, thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice meeting you. Thanks for giving us the platform.
Thank you. So it says the company will solicit municipality residents and businesses to participate in community solar. During the term of this agreement, municipality shall grant to Solar and provide an exclusive license to use any necessary branding, including but not limited to names, logos, and letterhead, and any other intellectual property necessary for Solar to provide performance services, including specifically farm marketing purposes. This agreement is doing exactly what the lease says we're gonna do, but we have to sign a contract
We
with
still
them
wanna have a conversation
to.
and understand the terms of
I
the
know,
lease.
but I just, like, in reading this, like, it's like, other, like, we can't just use town of Manlius logos and stuff without our permission. So I don't see what the issue is here.
We've got a question, we'll consider it, and we'll take this.
But
up.
I also think we have the answer here.
Not to everyone's satisfaction. So, any other questions on that? Okay. Next up.
There's a question.
Oh.
Could I ask Caitlin a question? Caitlin, is 700 households the cap under that solar farm can facilitate?
No, that's an estimate based on just the average size of houses in the town of Manlius. It could end up being more than 700, depending on how much electricity everyone's using. So if you've got 4-bedroom house, 2.5 bathrooms, and you've got 7-8 people living in there, you're gonna use far more kilowatt hours of electricity than you would if same size house and it's just 2 people living in there. So
Pretty good estimate on.
that is the rough estimate. We don't, it'll depend on, it's not the households that will matter, it's the kilowatt hours.
Next up, we had the inverse landscape fall contract, we looked at this last time or time before. So what we realized is the,
We didn't decide to leave.
we approved that last time, so.
No, but did we approve, we didn't vote on the community solar?
No.
Not that.
No.
Okay.
So, they, when they showed up, we were using the last fall cleanup bid, and that was assuming work had been done throughout the year. We didn't consider the fact that the previous landscaping we engaged with did not actually do work. So upon inspection of the site, they realized that there was a little bit extra work to do. So this is going from 1,200 to 1,600, which is still a pretty serious savings, from what the previous, landscaper was offering. So this is for approval.
I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the amended agreement with Edwards Landscaping in the amount of $1,600 for the 2023 fall cleanup at town.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have a memo from the assessor on some settlements in tax assessment issues. I think we've got some prepared motions. There were two settlements that we're taking a look at, and you just need approval for those refunds to go out. Yes.
Okay, I'm happy to make one. May I make a motion to approve the settlement of the tax, how do you pronounce it? Certiorari case brought, thank you, by Robert Germain for the parcel located at 7478 Northfield Lane, and approve the refund of $414.98 for the costs related to filing as presented by the town assessor.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Second motion, I'd like to make a motion to approve the settlement of tax certiorari case brought by 400 Clinton Street Fayetteville LLC for the parcel located at 400 Clinton Street, and approve the refund of $1,438.91 for the costs related to filing as presented by the town assessor.
Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So next up, we have the return of highway securities. It's a fun one. There's a big folder that has all the monies we're holding for all the different roads throughout the town. So this is just looking at a development in the town that's got a couple roads that we've been holding on to. The highway superintendent is taking a look at those, and we are ready to return those securities.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the release of the remaining 5% security being held for 864 feet of Straw Mountain Trail, 680 feet of Quarterhouse Run, and incidentally, 975 feet also of Quarterhouse Run.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. They will be happy to get that back. Okay, so next up, I think we discussed it last time.
Yeah.
We had 4 pieces of equipment that were ready, declared as surplus, ready to go out in, we went out to bid, and we've got some prices, so we just need approval.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the sale of surplus highway equipment items that were sold at Auctions International as presented by the highway superintendent, which are the 4 pieces of security.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have 6 minutes here.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 4th, 2023.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Is that?
You were at.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of 10/18/23 as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
You explain the amendment.
Oh, yeah.
So there are 2 things. One was simply a time was missing, but the substantive amendment was that when he was here, Mayor Olson, who is also county legislator, Olson made some announcements from the county part that were not on the agenda, and so we needed to get them captured.
As legislator. Thank you. Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. And we've got the abstract.
To approve abstract number 21. We are quieting down here.
Yes.
In the amount of $109,359.60.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Any updates on the board here?
Oh, yes, thank you, for the reminder. So, as we've discussed over a couple meetings so far this fall, the folks who live, adjacent to Mont Road School expressed concerns about existing traffic issues in their community, and that was brought to light in, with a zone change request, for a law firm on C Street. So I reached out to Fayetteville Manlius School District, and spoke with a couple different people, including someone who works with Dr. Tice in the district office, and we have permission to hold a public meeting at Mont Road for those neighbors, and they're going to get back to me with a final word about whether they can help to promote it, but it sounds like we'll be able to blast that up to Mont Road. So in terms of like sidewalk programs, it seems to be able, they were excited to hear from us.
Yeah.
So date TBD, but it will be, I think, the week after Thanksgiving.
So we do have one item for executive session for.
Or do you want to just make a comment about what it was?
Oh, yeah.
So on October 21st, we had Wicked Woods at Green Lakes, and it was our largest number of cars yet, and we had an estimated number of 1,200 cars. So we shut the line down at the end of the event at 8:30 p.m., but the last car didn't drive through until around 10:20 p.m. Donations to the food bank were up from last year by a total of 1,000 pounds more than they were from the previous year, resulting in a total of 2,675 pounds of food being donated to the food bank, and a dollar amount of $404.31 donated. This is done in collaboration and co-sponsored by the Village of Fayetteville Recreation, the Town of Manlius Recreation Department, and the Village of Manlius Parks and Recreation Department, as well as the Village of Manila, and the Office of New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, with support from the Town of Manlius Police and New York State Park Police. So a very great, very successful event with collaboration at its best.
Hey, as long as we're getting in positives here, that would be remiss of us not to mention our first Manlius Watershed Stewards event here, which was held here in the beautiful village of Fayetteville. Thank you, Trustee Matt, for showing up too and helping out at the end there. We were rained on several times, and yet this mighty crew of citizen scientists showed up to participate. We had volunteers from SUNY ESF, from the Isaac Walton League, we had Mr. Montessori, Trout Unlimited. And we had people showing up from all corners of the town of Manlius based on seeing signs posted at cafes, Facebook posts. We had, by my count, I think it ended up being 31 or 32 participants. But the beautiful thing is we had 7 or 8 10-year-olds in the creek, in waders, collecting samples to analyze and creatures. With creatures, yeah. Yeah, it was a fantastic event. So please do tune into the next go around with what the Manlius Watershed Stewards are up to. It was a success. Anything else?
Well, yeah, we had a great tree planting today at the Wellwood Courtyard. We want to thank the Courtyard Club and Wellwood Middle School, FM School District for reaching out and saying that they needed some support for a tree. We are so grateful to have partners at Rare Earth Nursery that provide us wonderful very specimens. And Leanna Nugent, who's our community forester and education partner from the Cornell Cooperative Extensions there. She's fantastic with the kids, and this was a very interesting young group. And they're all going to teach their parents now not to plant too deep and how not to strangle the tree in mulch, and it was really awesome. We also did a series of 4 trees that we planted at Lewis Park a couple of weeks ago, and we have a number of other places. In the spring, we'll be at Fremont Elementary for an Arbor Day celebration. We'll be at the Orchard, Signal Hill, and tomorrow morning at Limestone Gardens in the village of Manlius, planting a tree. All of these trees that are being planted in partnership with schools and housing associations are part of our commitment to our climate action plan, and having, trees as infrastructure is part of our carbon sequestration and carbon reduction goals for the town. And it's a great way to come together with folks. Thank you so much to Alyssa for being on the tree commission, to Stephanie Gresci and all of our partners.
And to Ann Young for arranging.
Oh, Ann Young has been an amazing coordinator with the community members. And
we're entering our 20th year as Tree City.
Yeah, 20 years as Tree City. We'll hope to hear from DEC soon about a grant.
So I believe what I'm asking for is a motion to enter executive sessions for purposes of discussing contract negotiation. Collective bargaining.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to enter into a special executive session to discuss a collective bargaining.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Gotta ask both to
I'm present.
I'll open those doors.
Hey, Allison. For the special meeting, I can give you this little line I sent, you like what I read, I'll email it to you.
Yes, anytime you guys do that, that is very helpful to me.
We live? Good.
Yes.
Okay, I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Have a good night.
Before you go, the tour of the Manoa wastewater plant next Wednesday, at 8 p.m.